The man who would become the Dalai Lama was born on July 6, 1935, in a small farming village called Taksar in northeastern Tibet. His birth name was Lamo Thondup. His family lived a simple rural life, tending animals and working the land in a remote mountainous region. Nothing in those early days suggested that this young boy would one day become one of the most recognized spiritual figures in the world. Yet according to Tibetan Buddhist tradition, the Dalai Lama is believed to be the reincarnation of a line of spiritual leaders who returned to guide the Tibetan people. When Lamo Thondup was just a toddler, monks began searching for the reincarnation of the previous Dalai Lama who had passed away a few years earlier. Their search eventually led them to the small village where the boy lived.
The monks conducted a series of traditional tests designed to identify the reincarnated spiritual leader. The young child was presented with objects belonging to the previous Dalai Lama, mixed among similar items. According to accounts from the time, he correctly recognized several of them. After careful consideration, the monks declared that the boy was the 14th Dalai Lama. At the age of 4, he was taken to Lhasa, the capital of Tibet, where he would begin his training as the spiritual and political leader of the Tibetan people. His childhood would no longer resemble that of an ordinary village boy.
Inside the Potala Palace in Lhasa, the young Dalai Lama began years of intense religious and academic study. His education focused on Buddhist philosophy, logic, ethics, meditation, and classical Tibetan scholarship. Monks and teachers guided him through a rigorous intellectual tradition that had developed over centuries. The training involved debates, memorization of sacred texts, and deep reflection on questions about the nature of consciousness, suffering, and compassion. Despite the seriousness of his responsibilities, those who knew him described him as curious and playful, fascinated by mechanical objects and eager to learn about the outside world. But events unfolding beyond Tibet's mountains would soon challenge his peaceful environment.
In 1950, when the Dalai Lama was just 15 years old, Chinese forces entered Tibet, beginning a period of political tension that would dramatically change the region's future. With the situation becoming increasingly unstable, the young Dalai Lama was asked to assume full political authority earlier than expected. The responsibility placed on him was immense. He now faced the task of leading his people during a time of uncertainty and conflict. For several years, attempts were made to negotiate a peaceful coexistence between Tibet and China. But tensions continued to grow.
In 1959, an uprising erupted in Lhasa amid fears that the Chinese government might detain the Dalai Lama. As violence spread and the situation became dangerous, he made the difficult decision to leave Tibet. Disguised as a soldier, the Dalai Lama began a dangerous journey across the Himalayas. Traveling mostly at night, he and his companions crossed treacherous mountain passes before finally reaching India. The Indian government granted him asylum, and he settled in the northern town of Dharamshala. From that moment on, the Dalai Lama would live in exile, separated from the homeland he once ruled.
In India, the Dalai Lama established a Tibetan government in exile and began working to preserve Tibetan culture, religion, and identity among the thousands of refugees who had followed him. Schools, monasteries, and cultural institutions were created to ensure that Tibetan traditions would survive despite displacement. At the same time, the Dalai Lama continued advocating for peaceful dialogue and a non-violent resolution to Tibet's political situation. His commitment to non-violence would become one of the defining aspects of his leadership.
Over the years, the Dalai Lama's message of compassion and peace reached far beyond Tibet. He traveled widely, meeting political leaders, scientists, religious figures, and ordinary citizens across the world. His teachings emphasized universal values such as kindness, empathy, and the importance of inner peace. Rather than focusing solely on religious doctrine, he often spoke about shared human responsibility and ethical living. His warm personality, gentle humor, and thoughtful insights made him a beloved figure across cultures and religions.
In 1989, the Dalai Lama was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for his consistent advocacy of nonviolent solutions and peaceful dialogue. The award recognized his efforts to promote reconciliation, respect, and understanding even in the face of political conflict. In his Nobel speech, he spoke about compassion as a universal principle that could guide humanity toward a more harmonious world. The recognition further strengthened his global influence.
Another unique aspect of the Dalai Lama's work has been his engagement with modern science. Fascinated by the study of the human mind, he has participated in discussions with neuroscientists, psychologists, and philosophers exploring the relationship between meditation, consciousness, and emotional well-being. These dialogues helped create new areas of research examining how ancient contemplative practices might contribute to mental health and scientific understanding. For the Dalai Lama, curiosity and open inquiry were essential parts of spiritual life.
Despite decades in exile, the Dalai Lama continues to emphasize compassion as the foundation of human happiness. He often reminds audiences that peace in the world begins with peace in the mind. His teachings encourage individuals to cultivate patience, kindness, and responsibility toward others. These ideas have resonated with millions of people seeking guidance in an increasingly complex world. For many, the Dalai Lama represents a bridge between spiritual wisdom and modern global dialogue.
Today, the Dalai Lama remains one of the most recognized spiritual leaders on the planet. His life story, from a village child in the mountains of Tibet to a global advocate for peace, reflects the extraordinary journey of a man shaped by both tradition and history. Though he lives far from Tibet, his influence continues to shape conversations about compassion, cultural preservation, and the pursuit of peaceful solutions to conflict. His story is not only about leadership, but about the enduring belief that kindness and understanding can guide humanity toward a better future.